Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah Arbeck.
And I'm Sean Henry. Welcome to the Montreal Mayoral Exchange 2025.
The candidates from three parties are with us. Soraya Martinez Ferrada of Ensemble Montréal, Luc Rabouin of Projet Montréal, and Craig Sauvé of Transition Montréal.
Now, we wanted to keep this simple. We want to talk about the issues that Montrealers care about.
Yeah, and that is housing, that is mobility, and getting things done.
Yes, so let's get started.
There are a lot of challenges facing Montreal, but I want you to imagine for a second that it's the day after you've been sworn in. You are the mayor of Montreal. What is the first thing you're going to tackle? You each have a minute to answer this question. Soraya, we're going to start with you. What would you do first?
So the question I've asked all Montrealers when I've met with them is, do you think the city is better off today than 8 years ago? And many of them all the time will answer to me, no. So what do we need to do? One of the basic things that they ask for is getting back to the simple things of taking care of business, as you said, of Montreal. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that we have a table of mayors around the table, working with the executive committee to make sure that we're changing the way that we're doing things in Montreal. One of them is making sure that we're tackling the services direct to citizens, and that has to go through the boroughs. And I think working better with the boroughs will give better service to citizens. So I've issued 6 priorities for me in terms of the mandate. So housing, homelessness, security, cleanness, making sure that we can move around the city easy and efficiently, and of course making sure that the city of Montreal is better managed, because right now what people are asking for in this city is a new administration that will tackle the issues in a more direct way.
Okay, thank you very much. And Luc, what is the first thing that you're going to do?
Yes, thank you for the invitation. When I will be the next mayor of Montreal, I will start with working on homelessness and housing. This is the first priority I have. And when I talk to Montrealers, this is the first thing they talk to us, and they want that we put resource on that and energy. I will work on that. And I decided to jump into politics in 2019 because I wanted to accelerate the ecological transition. This is why I decided to jump into politics, and I was thinking about my children. They were 12 and 14 years old at that time, and now, because of the huge crisis, I believe that we still have to work on the environment, and I will do it, but we have to focus on housing. And I will start with the modular project. We have to offer a safe roof over the head of the people that are in the street. And the first thing I will do is to start to deploy these 500 modular homes, as we did in Côte des Neiges, to give a safe space for people that are now in tents or in shelter.
All right, thank you very much. And Craig, what will the first thing be that you will do as mayor?
Well, first of all, thanks to the CBC for organizing this only English language live televised debate. I think it's super important. Obviously, I think Montreal faces many crises right now. And when I'm in the streets talking to people or in the metro, they're talking about the same things. They're talking about affordability and housing. People are extremely stressed out about where they're going to be able to be, how their housing situation is right now. Homelessness is absolutely something that it shouldn't happen in Montreal like it is right now. Thousands of people in the street, over 5,000 people are living in the street in situations of homelessness. It's extremely dangerous. It's a public security risk for them, and it's an absolute tragedy that this is going on in our country. So we should have to fight against this. Public transit initiatives as well. The funding in public transit has been really problematic. So we really have to work on public transit solutions to help Montrealers get around better. So the first thing I would do if I'm elected mayor is try to unite City Council. Try to work with the 2 other parties and try to put together an executive committee, members of all parties, to unite and make a team Montreal so that we can go get the solutions we need from other governments and start working even harder on the solutions to house people and make sure that people are safe.
All right, we've already acknowledged affordability in Montreal, and it's become outrageously expensive to rent an apartment in Montreal. You all say affordable housing is one of your top priorities, if not the top priority, but your plans kind of differ. And Craig, I'll put this question to you first. Part of your plan includes a tax on residential properties of $3.5 million. Now, we checked with the city, and there are fewer than 1,000 properties of that nature on the island. So how much do you think that tax is going to bring in, and is it enough?
It's not enough, no, but it's a start. And so we estimated around $20 million that we can be adding to put towards homelessness initiatives to offer core services to people in the street that need it. And that would triple the amount of funding we put towards initiatives to help people in situations of homelessness. So it's really important that we put more resources there. People are at risk. In the last municipal council, I even tabled a motion to try to get a state of emergency for homeless so we could put people in hotels, motels, whatever it took before winter came so that we could save lives. So this is one of the initiatives we're proposing for dealing with homelessness, but also we believe that the solution resides primarily in non-market solutions for housing. That means cooperatives, that means community housing. As soon as profit is brought into the equation, that's when we're noticing that inaffordability is happening. The vacancy rates on luxury condos are high, but the vacancy rates on affordable homes is very low. So we have to build truly affordable housing, and that's off-market solutions. All the cities in the world where they have affordability in housing in this crisis, it's always because they have a high amount of non-market solutions and cooperatives, community houses. That's the solution.
All right, Luc, your administration brought in the bylaw that essentially created that loophole that allowed developers to get out of building affordable housing. Why should Montrealers trust that you are the mayor to get these affordable buildings done?
Yeah, we have we need a bylaw to make sure that affordable housing, not-for-profit affordable housing, the same thing that non-market solutions, is mandatory. It's not an option. It's mandatory. Affordability is mandatory. And when we look at the examples elsewhere in the world, like Vienna, they work for so long, for more than 20 years. If we have started a bylaw 20 years ago, when Madame Martinez Ferrada was at the City Council with Gérald Tremblay, we will not be in this situation right now. We need that it is mandatory. So this is one thing that I propose. And you said that developers use a way to pay a contribution, but we receive $58 million in contribution from the developers to support initiative in affordable and social housing projects.
Did that go directly to?
Yes, of course. It supports the direct projects. So it's a way to raise money. But what I propose is that is an exception. Contribution should be an exception. We have to encourage partnership between private developers and not-for-profit organizations to develop projects, like Broccolini proposed just a few weeks ago in the Southwest. 800 units, 400 not-for-profit, 400 private in a partnership. This is what we have to encourage and support.
All right, Soraya, you would do away with the affordable housing bylaw altogether. I'd like to know who you would prefer to partner up with to build affordable housing. Is it private developers or is it nonprofit organizations? And maybe you can explain which or maybe both.
So what we've seen in the past 8 years is what the Valerie Plante's administration with Luc Rabouin's administration has done has failed. It has failed because all constructions have gone somewhere else. So to your question is, you do them with all of them. You have to do social and affordable housing with the nonprofit. And you have to partner with the private, because what you need to do is lower the cost of construction in order to be able to offer the social and affordable housing that you need to do. So instead of trying to do something mandatory that actually will just get them to go away and not construct in Montreal, you have to be a real financial partner. And how can you do that? Give them financial incentives. Give them a permit, maybe it's free. If you partner with a nonprofit and you offer social housing in the construction of your project, you can have free permits, you can have fiscal incentives to do that. And if you listen to developers, they want to work with us because they understand that in Montreal, we need to address affordability, because even the private sectors, students need to come in here and find a place to stay. Workers need to come in, find a place. So it is also an economic development if you can offer the social housing that we need. And that's why we need to partner differently with everybody, nonprofit, private sector, and the city has to think differently. We need to address the issue of affordable housing like a developer. We need to make sure that we're doing it, not pretending that maybe the other levels of government will address the issue.
Okay, based on each of your plans, how many units will you build in the next year? And I'll just go around the table, Soraya.
So there's many things that in your question. On the homelessness, we've committed to 2,000 transition homes. In terms of social and affordable housing, I said that I wanted to go through all the projects that they have bought, the lands and the projects and the buildings that they have bought. We have to see how many housing can we do on those projects. You have Bridge Bonaventure, you have Hippodrome. They had a gift from Quebec in 2017. It took the nonprofit and the private sector to leverage the housing on the Hippodrome. Hippodrome, we're talking about a minimum of 20,000 units. But that's not the city. That's the private sector and the nonprofit that actually came up with that, which is Gallup, which is Claude Pinard. He's actually running with me now. So I think we need to, again, think about this differently.
Okay, Luc?
Yeah, I worked a lot with Pierre Boivin and Jenny Béic. That was the leading person from Gallup. And in this project, in Namur Hippodrome, there will be 10,000 units out of the market. And this is very important. And what people should understand, what I want to propose is to accelerate the partnership between not-for-profit organization and developers to aim to get our 20%. We have a goal, 20% non-market housing. How we can make it done? So we have examples of examples in Sud-Ouest. I told it before with Broccolini and a not-for-profit, and also we have the same thing at Îlot Voyageur. Private developers, Mondev, develop a partnership with a not-for-profit Utile that develop student housing. We have to accelerate that, and it will work. But we will never have this partnership if we had not a bylaw that make it mandatory.
Okay,
so it's hard to respond to number of units, but we have to accelerate these developments to be sure that we build for everybody.
Craig, just a bit of time.
That bylaw was watered down over the course of this mandate, and we didn't develop as much as we could have. I think we have to make the social housing contributions obligatory in the next version of the bylaw. And, you know, we can't just think that the private market, out of the goodness of their hearts, the multi-million-dollar real estate developers are all of a sudden going to develop us social housing. We need to oblige them. They're in it for the profit. They're in it to make a buck. So we need to put them to the table with real bylaws that are going to force them. We have the zoning power. We have it. I've been a city council for 12 years in the Sud-Ouest. We've developed a lot. We have to use this zoning power and leverage it and make sure that that we can build public, real, proper community housing where we can with our lands. And all public lands should stay for public interest and not sold away to the private companies.
I want to talk a little bit about zoning in the Sud-Ouest, for example, because I remember a story from 2022 about a project in the Sud-Ouest where the Sud-Ouest Council initially was in favor of a height exemption. And which would have come with green space, which would have come with a building for a social housing unit, and suddenly you backed away from it because of resident opposition. In hindsight, was that the right decision?
We would have been destroyed in that referendum if we went forward with it. And it was a better project, I think, because we did gain a lot of green space. And the project had acquired rights to build there anyway, which they're doing right now. And we'll hide the mountain from people south of the canal. So, look, I think we have to try to fight for better projects. And we have to explain to the population why we're going towards projects. Again, I think resolving the housing crisis, however, is non-market solutions. It's community housing. It's cooperatives. If we're talking about housing crisis, that's where we have to go.
In the meantime, though, here's some more numbers for you. The most recent statistics show that Montreal will lose more than 126,000 people to other regions of Quebec by 2030. How do you make Montreal appealing for people to stay or even to come back? Craig, I'll start with you, and the two of you can jump in.
I mean, it's all about affordability. At the end of the day, it's all about affordability. And so we're losing families from Montreal because, and I've met people in door to door, they'll tell me like, we're thinking about having a child, but we have no room in our home right now. And the private market is not offering any solutions for us. We're afraid we'll be, uprooted from our community. So that's why we really have to try to develop real affordable housing, and it is long-term that we have to go. One of our other propositions in Transition Montréal is to actually create an agency that can do construction of housing. And that's something that's radical, it's new, but why not go there? Because we can't always rely on other governments to bring the money in and get it done. We can do it ourselves if we build ourselves the construction capacity to do it. So these are ways we're looking to be brand new, bold, and we're going to need bold, radical ideas, because if not, we're going to get taken over by the private market and things are just going to get more and more expensive for everybody.
I don't think Montreal needs another structure. We have one. We can actually look into what the mandate of that structure is and open up to new partnerships and look at it differently. But to your question is, we lost more than 300,000 families in the past 8 years in the city. So yes, affordable housing, yes to social housing, but we need to address the issue of new property. People want to buy, young families want to buy a home, and they're going away of Montreal because the dream of buying a home, they can't address it. And the gap of the generational equity in terms of what our grandfathers bought their homes in Montreal, and why can we look into making sure that young adults, young families can stay in Montreal? My daughter came back home because she can rent and she can buy. So we love each other, but not all the time. But I mean, in a lot of families, that's what they have. So we need to address the social and affordable homes, and we need to address affordability also in property, and that's what I offer. I offer a program so we can help them get the down payment to buy or reimburse them when they re-sign their mortgage, and also making sure that we address the family, giving them incentives to maybe even build a new unit of housing on their garage, on their home, because we also need to make sure that we are keeping families together in Montreal, and that's another way to address it.
Mm-hmm. Affordability is the main reason why people leave Montreal, but we also have to work on the quality of life in our neighborhoods. Montreal has a great quality of life in the neighborhoods. The people, and the parents and the people ask us to have access to green spaces, safe streets, vibrant commercial streets, the access to culture in their neighborhoods. And this is something why people choose to stay in Montreal, because they like the lifestyle of Montreal. But if they can find an apartment for them at the price they can pay, it's a major issue. So we have to work on affordability, and we know that a volunteer strategy base of the good willingness of developers, we tried it in the past. It doesn't work. And other cities tried it. Toronto tried it. They built a lot. But to live in central Toronto, you have to have a lot of money. So this is not what we want for Montreal. We want to develop affordable housing, and I agree to the access to property, but 2/3 of Montrealers are tenants. So the major priority is to offer affordable housing for people.
All right. I want to ask you all about homelessness. You've all brought it up already, but I want to dig into that a little deeper because, of course, as you know, it's an ongoing problem. People are looking for immediate solutions. Soraya, you want to create mini shelters spread out across the island. I'm wondering, how will you handle any potential resistance to that plan?
So you have to do them smaller. Make sure that you are working with our local organizations, nonprofit, community organizations, and making sure that we are looking into where do we need these spaces. It's not because you can't take people from downtown and bring them north of the island. Like you have to respect where they live, and you have to respect the need of every borough. But what I'm saying is that we have to make sure that collectively we agree that we need to support better the homelessness needs in all the boroughs of our neighborhoods in Montreal. It cannot be only downtown, only Southwest. So we have to respect that. And we have the means to do that. We can do that.
What I mean, though, is that, if you pick another borough, we won't start naming boroughs, but pick a borough that's not Sud-Ouest, that's not Mercier-Hochelaga, Maisonneuve, that's not Ville-Marie. You pick another borough and you say that you want to put a mini shelter.
Yeah.
What's that conversation like?
Well, then you have to talk to people. Like he just pointed out Outremont. Because why did he do that? Because he thinks people in Outremont and our elected officials in Outremont don't want one. Of course they want one. We need to address the issue of we need to consult, because they do things without consulting anybody, and then they say they want to consult. But no, you need to...
There's a public consultation.
No, that's not the same. You decided that it was going to be there, and then you decided that then I can talk to people. No, you talk to people before, and you make sure that you put in the ground to make sure that people will accept it, and that people will be reassured that you are addressing their concerns. because you can't talk with people that only agree with you. You have to talk to people that actually don't agree with you, and you have to make sure that you're addressing their concerns. That's the only way we're going to have social cohabitation, because if not, then people will just not accept them, and then it creates problems like we have in other boroughs.
Yeah, but in reality, when there's an opportunity to buy something, because if you want to open a shelter, you have to buy it.
Of course you buy it.
So you buy it, and after that, you talk with people.
Yes.
Because you have to buy it.
But don't wait 3 years to do something. You can talk to people and do something. They bought a home on L'Acadie 3 years ago, and now they're going to demolish it. Why not? Why not go work with nonprofit organizations, work with the neighborhood, make sure that you can open that shelter to people. They fail to do that because they don't listen and they don't talk to people. They just think that they have the right solution and it addresses it everywhere.
I want to bring you into the conversation.
We have to move quickly because there are people that are at risk of losing their lives, right? We're there right now in Montreal. It's a real crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis. We're a rich country. It's completely unacceptable that there are thousands of people living in the streets at their own risk. So we do need to move quickly in these houses. We need to create, different solutions, modular housing. We need to create, more shelters. There are places in Montreal that have nothing. So between the Sud-Ouest and Pierrefonds, there's nothing. Okay. So then you get overpopulation of shelters, and that's a problem too. So all the neighborhoods need to have their fair share. That's the best way we can go. But we have to move quickly because if we keep going on and on and on talking, then these people are being more and more at risk.
All right.
That goes, we're going to probably talk about encampments soon too, but we have to also help people that are in encampments too.
So let's stay on this topic somewhat and talk about cohabitation now and talk about services in different neighborhoods. La Maison Benoît Labre in the Sud-Ouest. As you know, it's in the district you currently represent, and there's been complaints about behavior in the vicinity, mostly around the day center. If that project was presented to you again today as an elected official, how would you approach it differently?
Well, I think we try to give it more capacity. I think that's one of the things we try to do because it's overcrowded. That's the problem with Maison Benoît Labre. Like I said, between the Sud-Ouest and Pierrefonds, there's no other points west. And the same issues are happening in all shelters across the country, across the city. Where there is a shelter and there's no other services around, they get overcrowded, and then it becomes problematic. And the people that are going there, it's because they're in survival mode. They're trying to get access to clothes, food, resources, and they were just not offering enough services in Montreal. And when people establish, confidence with the people that work at those shelters, they get diverted into better solutions for their lives, whether it's treatment, whether it's having a place to receive mail, identification, access to other people. It's a really helpful way for them to get back into an organized living space. So we need to create more of these opportunities right now.
Luc, I want to go over to you because your administration promised to move the day center at La Maison Benoît Labre. We checked. It's still there. Is it moving or is it not moving?
Yeah, to move a resource, you need an alternative. You need another place. We have the same situation in the plateau with Open Door because they want to move. They want to find a better place, better for the workers, better for the people who are using the services. But there's a challenge to find the good place for that. And in the meantime, we cannot close any resources because people need help. So we have to find a better place. We have to, and I agree because we said that for at least 2 or 3 years, that we need smaller resource everywhere because it's easier to integrate. We have a lot in the plateau. Nobody knows because it's small resources, well integrated in the neighborhood with services. And now homelessness is not just a downtown. People want to stay in their neighborhood. There's people in Pointe-aux-Trembles and people everywhere in Montreal who need a place to stay and they don't have. So we need to move faster. And I'm just interested to know why Madame Martinez Ferrada is against the modular, because in my comprehension is the fastest way to offer a safe place. And there was a really nice reportage at RAD about the story of the shelter, the modular in Côte-des-Neiges. Story of this man, a father who hasn't a place to stay, and he found a place at the modular, and it's changed his life. And
so
it's very quick to do it.
With Projet Montréal's misinformation and lying about my position. I'm not against modular. What I've said is that this is a Band-Aid that they have come up with in a very long time because they had the money for a long time to do it. It took a long time for them to do the modular homes. The idea is you need to respond quickly. Now, Projet Montréal was the administration in the Southwest that worked on the project, the Maison Benoît Labre. how can you not understand that if you have a shelter, emergency shelter, with that capacity, knowing that there's nothing around it, that wouldn't be a problem? Seriously?
You know, it came up at City Council for one vote for to add an extra level of housing in that project. Ensemble Montréal didn't say a damn thing. They voted in favor of it. They didn't even question it. So let's be honest here. Ensemble Montréal is not on this file now.
No, we all agree that we
all agree it's important.
What we need to do is relieve the pressure. Thinking that you're going to move it when Quebec finance a lot of that project, that you're going to move it, those are public funding. That's our money. We need to relieve the pressure. We need to open more smaller spaces.
That we agree. We need more spaces.
We need more spaces,
Absolutely.
and we need to do them quickly. And we have the means to do that. But again, Projet Montréal in the past 8 years has not moved quickly. I'm telling you, they have the heart in the right place, but lack of ambition and lack of execution.
Okay, I'm going to continue on the theme of homelessness, but we're talking about the broader issue. I want to talk about the people now who are living in the encampments. You know, what can you do to make their living conditions better until they finally do get into that transitional housing? Some that we've spoken to have said, hey, how about running water? Yep. Maybe electricity. How about a little bit of food on a regular basis? And they wonder, is that a reasonable request? So this is going to be another exchange section. And Luc, we'll start with you this time. What do you think? Are those requests reasonable? Electricity, running water, some food coming in on a regular basis.
Until we don't have better option to offer them, we have to support them and to be sure that they have the basic conditions what they have the right to have. So
but we've been dealing this with for several years now,
I know.
And they don't have running water on a regular basis.
Yeah.
They don't have electricity.
Yeah, I know that, and we had a different position. I believe now that we need to the encampment. They will stay, because we need to develop resources quickly, but it will take time. Even if the modular is the fastest way, it will take time, at least a couple of years to develop places. In the meantime, we have to support, to help, to give them the basic infrastructure and the community services they need, the help to be able to find eventually.
I mean, it took a superior court, many resolutions to say basically that you can't
Injunctions,
injunctions. Thank you. That you can't demolish with bulldozers these encampments like has been done before. So I found it a complete denial of human rights and how we approached that at the City of Montreal. It was something that I found very scandalous. People, when they're in encampments, they're really in the last level of survival mode. And every time we dismantled another encampment, the people would find themselves in a worse situation. They weren't more secure after that. So that's absolutely the wrong approach. And so that's something, I mean, I was outspoken at this file for the past 4 years. I'm the only city council that was saying it was the wrong move. And we have to move towards exactly that, providing resources to people. You know, we can finance some resources. We can finance hygiene, running water, like you mentioned. We can finance, frontline social workers that help them get the services they need. Sometimes it's a small solution. Sometimes it's just like, I need identity card because I don't have one anymore. So providing workers that can provide these kind of things is exactly the way we have to go forward. And when you put them in situations where they're uncamped, where they're further away from services, that's dangerous for them, and we're going to lose people like that.
What's your approach?
Well, I agree with Craig on this one. And honestly, again, Mr. Rabouin, he just said, we had a different approach. Yeah, you dismantle them. And you dismantle them, and it took a court to protect the encampments. Now, if you dismantle them, they're going to go somewhere else. So you're not addressing the issue, and you're not addressing the root of the issue, which is, again, social housing, community support, psychological support. This is an health issue. So you need to address the health issue. They had the opportunity for 8 years, not only to put some money, but a lot of money in this to make sure that we were supporting the encampments in terms of sanitary support. To your point, water, just picking up the garbage. and making sure that we were supporting them in a way that we could work on the encampments.
So if you were mayor, would do this?
I would do, and I said at the beginning of my campaign that homelessness would be the first priority. Claude Pinard, I went to get him to work with me on homelessness issues. We are going to tackle that in a very serious way. I said I need 4 years to make the end of the encampments. That's a goal, that's a perspective, that is something that collectively we need to address as a city and take our own responsibility to address the issue. But supporting them in a way, more outreach workers, more community organizations support, and putting more money in the issue, making sure that we have enough to support them.
I'll give you 20 seconds.
Just one of the most, anti-homeless bylaws that was passed over this past mandate was the metro refusals, where they're trying to kick the homeless out of the metro, basically, and refuse loitering. And Madame Martinez Ferrada's party is proposing more metro cops. That's going to be more repression, and I don't think that's the right way to go.
I said
that
with
whole bylaw
community
has
services,
to be stricken.
I said with intervention support. I said with des intervenants psychosociaux, not police, not constable.
Not what it says in your
no, we said with community support.
Okay, I'm sorry, but we are going to have to move on.
Totally agree.
It truly is difficult to get things done in this city. I mean, just, many issues that we're facing. I want to talk about the dysfunction, though, of the city, whether it's reducing traffic. I think, Craig and Soraya, you got caught in traffic on your way to our studios tonight, filling potholes, or maybe just ordering a compost bin. It can be a very stressful or upsetting amount of time to sit on 311 to get that compost bin or maybe your trees cut. So Sean's going to talk about orange cones in a second, but of course every conversation has to.
Come on.
But Soraya, what would you do to streamline things at City Hall? How do we cut the bureaucracy?
There's a couple of things. I mean, for sure, again, this administration, Valérie Plante's administration with Mr. Rabouin has hired many people. More than almost 3,000 people more at City Central. We need to go back to a city where we're supporting better the boroughs. We're giving them more autonomy in terms of decision making. We have to get the proximity of the service better done in the boroughs. So I've come out with that this week. And we need to make sure that we're making the city more agile in terms of decision making. Permits are one issue. When you call the 311, making sure that you have a support and getting back to you in terms of what you asked for. So I think there has to be a way to better work with boroughs and making sure that the services we're giving to the citizens are faster, because they have centralized a lot of what we need to be, making it more agile locally.
Craig, how about you? How do you cut the bureaucracy?
Well, one of our propositions is to actually create a red tape commission at the City Hall. That would be a public commission on camera live where every borough would have to pass.
Does that create more red tape?
Yeah, that's going to ask that question.
That's a good one. The idea is that it provides pressure on the services to find ways to reduce the amount of useless bureaucracy, old bylaws that don't need to exist anymore. And if it's in public, they'd have to pass once per year, each borough, to show how they've improved services, how they've reduced wait times, how they've made things simpler for Montrealers. And that's something that can really help us. A little internal pressure does help. I mean, in terms of 311, I think we should have a chat function on 311. I think there's ways that we can provide retro action on the information we've requested that could much better the experience that Montrealers have right now. Sometimes, and I do 311 with my real name and anonymously to see how it works, and sometimes the information I'm getting back is not adequate. So that's frustrating for everywhere.
All right, Luc, you were nodding there. Maybe a chat for 311.
There's the application. I use it all the time on my phone when I see some problems, and it works very well. We have a very big challenge, because the city is a large organization with 19 boroughs, and we have to be more efficient. We started 2 years ago a systematic revision of all the services and the programs at the City of Montreal to improve it, facilitate it, and be more efficient. This is something that we have to go really more profound and to change the way we work. We started something. The 120 days for a permit. There was no standards at the City of Montreal forever. There was no standards, no common way to calculate the deadline and to have a norm, a standards. Now we have a standard, and it's applied everywhere in Montreal, 120 days, and we have to go further of that. And this is an example that what we have to do. And I totally agree with the autonomy of the boroughs. As in charge of the economic development, I developed a program to support small commercial streets in different boroughs. So we just give the money to every boroughs and ask them to decide where they want to put it, because they know well their local dynamic. This is a way to simplify things and to be confident that the boroughs are well placed to decide what is better to be done in their sector.
All right, it's time for that orange cone question. It has become somewhat of a running gag in Montreal, and I actually saw a local newspaper, I don't know if you all saw it over the weekend, in a grocery store anyway. It said, "Qui sera notre prochain dirigeant des cônes orange?" Now, we know they're in place for a reason. We know they're in place for safety reasons. But how do you at once manage those safety reasons, but at the same time manage the presence of those cones? Craig, start us off.
Well, to start, obviously, we have a lot of work that's going to come down the pipeline in Montreal. Our underground infrastructure, that's our water pipes, our sewers. I'm not going to lie, we're going to have another good decade and a half at least of a lot of work, maybe longer. So whomever's the mayor here, we're going to have a lot of work. Sorry, Montreal.
Not reassuring for anybody listening.
Second piece is, though, I think we can do much more of that in-house. The vast majority of those orange cones that we're seeing are sites that are run by the private sector, because we're outsourcing all our work to the private sector to do paving, to do sidewalks, to do whatever. And the private sector, usually these large companies, these large construction companies that take 30, 40 contracts at the same time during the summer, and they work at their pace. They might go whatever faster for them to have a higher profit, but they don't look after the best interests of Montrealers and the citizens. They don't look after the frustration of citizens. So we want to create an agency called Infra Montreal, where we're going to do more work in-house, and that means our blue collars will do more paving, our blue collars will do more sidewalk.
Are there enough people to do all of that, though?
I mean, absolutely. This is something we have to build. It's not going to be overnight, but we're building over time. And the number one recommendation of the Charbonneau Commission back in the day to avoid construction, collusion, and corruption was to bring more work in-house. Why? Because it's cheaper, we can do it better, and then down the road we'll make savings.
Luc?
Yeah, so I think that Montrealers understand that we have to do all these works because of a lack of investment in the last decades regarding our underground infrastructure, water and sewage pipes. So we have to do it. They understand that. What they are upset, and I am too, is all these orange cones, and I said that like it's more, I said that I will forbid it in Montreal, the large orange cone. That will not resolve the problem, I understand that, but it's just a question of a vision of how we have all these orange cones, large orange cones, in a city where people drive at 40 kilometers or 30 kilometers. We don't need that. So that resolves not everything, but it's something. I want to forbid that. I want also to name someone that will be the boss of the streets in Montreal, really, because they use it in New York City. There's one person in charge of everything that is happening on the streets everywhere in Montreal. Even if it's a borough responsibility, of a central city responsibility, we need someone in charge of the coordination and able to make decisions and be accountable for that. And we have to watch more every project that are on our streets.
So Valerie ran our campaign on being the mayors of the mobility. They created an instance of mobility. And the Projet Montréal, failed to do that because right now we have more construction, more ghost construction sites that we ever had. We have TVA saying this is a construction site where nobody's in it.
Right. I've done stories about previous administration, same thing though.
I get it. I understand. Right now, what we need to do is better coordinate the risk of doing one street with the other. I've committed to working on the artificial intelligence. There's cities that have done it. Look at what Singapore has done it. We need to work on a digital twin. We need to work on how we can better plan, because it's the idea of planning what we are lacking in Montreal right now. It's not because you change the size of a cone, because you change the color of a cone, that you're planning better. We need to make sure that the impact of the construction that you're doing, you understand the impact of the fluidity that's going to happen in your city, the impact of the merchants, on the citizens, on everybody, and that they need to do. Info Travaux right now, that website that we have at the city, doesn't give you the planning, what's coming in a year and 2 years. So we need to do better in planning, and I think we can do better because what we're doing right now is not working, and we need to change it.
I want to talk about nightlife
Yes.
in Montreal. You know, people come from all over the place expecting to see our great nightlife, and we have a reputation of having a really amazing city, but we've lost some of that nightlife, haven't we, because of noise complaints as well as fines. How can venues and new residential developments coexist? So let that sink in. Residential developments and venues. When folks living there now have families, they're not night owls. Luc, the boroughs of the Plateau and Ville-Marie are proposing bylaws where a $10,000 fine could be imposed for the first offense. Is that a good idea?
No, it's not a good idea, and it will not happen. We just have a new nightlife policy that we adopted last year, and we have started to designate some nightlife zone, like Quartier des Spectacles, Saint-Laurent Boulevard, and the Village, and we are designated different venues as nightlife venues, so we will be able to be more flexible with them and to support them. And we will change the bylaw that they will not fine at $10,000. The police will not apply the bylaw because it's not a safety issue. People are not in danger, so the police should concentrate on that. And we will also put in place mediation team to work with the neighbors, and we try to find solution with them. If there's no solution, we will have technicians that will apply the bylaw that will be standard norms. It's not on the impression. It will be norms based on decibel.
Okay.
So that will help.
I do have to move on. The hour is quickly moving along. But Soraya, you're also proposing mediation before imposing fines.
I'm not even imposing fines.
You're
Never said I'm imposing fines.
Okay.
Luc Rabouin is mayor of the Plateau for the past 6 years. La Tulipe closed down on his guard. He proposed a rule on fines without even consulting anybody. That's what the administration of Projet Montréal did. Now, when people screamed on the street and said, what are you talking about? A small venue cannot even think about paying $10,000. They backed down. Now, I propose to exactly what he's saying we can make sure that the police will not take the complaints on noise. We have to understand that the city of Montreal is a nightlife city. People in the Quartier des Spectacles are complaining on the noise of the festivals. This is who we are as a city. So we need to address the issue around mediation, supporting small venues, making sure that they can buy their own venue, supporting them on the mission, because it's an economy that is important for the city of Montreal, and that's what I've been proposing.
But we're also trying to get more development in the city to provide more housing. So how do the two coexist?
Absolutely.
What do you say to those people with young families who have a venue next door?
Well, I would say to them, we have to look for making sure that you can buy a home in Montreal, find a house that you need, but you understand that if you buy a condominium in front of the festivals, it comes with the noise.
And Craig, what do you think?
This is a problem that's been going on for many years. Projet Montréal has been in charge of the Plateau for 16 years. Divan Orange closed, Inspecteur Impingle, Beau Bar, so many bars have been closed. It's been like an over-control, a micromanagement, I think, of this industry, and that's why the cultural sector has come to our party, Transition Montréal, in droves, because we've proposed really much to want to protect this sector. That means having zones. That means taking the side of the cultural industry. That means considering it our cultural heritage. Montreal is one of the coolest cities in the world, and that's something that we're proud about. When we travel around the world, we're like, I'm from Montreal. It's one of the coolest places, and it's because we have those venues. It's because we have that nightlife. So it absolutely needs to be protected. The bylaw that was proposed, it didn't happen with a vast consultation of the community. That's why they're so mad. They found out about this massive fine that was thrown into the bylaw, so they've lost faith. And with with good reason. We have people in our party like Vincent Stephen Ong, Sergio De Silva, people who are in the scene for a long time, and they've been faced with constant frustrations and threats of their little venues being closed down, the places where the innovation in music and culture has put Montreal on the map worldwide. So we need absolutely to protect it. It's our cultural heritage.
I want to move on to mobility and the different kinds of mobility. Let's start with public transit. So a lot of what each of you are proposing depends on factors beyond your control. For example, involvement from the provincial government or from the regional transit authority. Soraya, I'll start with you. I want to know, what's one thing that's within the city's control that Montrealers will notice when it comes to public transit and what you're proposing?
Local community transportation. How do we make sure that in every single small community of boroughs, we're addressing the issue of transportation? I live completely at the East Island. If you want to get down to downtown with public transportation, it could take you probably maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. But if you think about the mobility within the area of where I live and making sure that we have more buses and routes that convey the where they live and where they want to go work and where they're going to go study, making sure that those are very efficient. I think it's also, it's not a straight line. It's how do you use the locally in terms of supporting locally the transportation. That's one of the things.
Mm-hmm. So I propose something that we can do at the city level. Of course, we want to request from the government of Quebec investment. We want the tramway on the east of Montreal to be realized, the one through La Chine also. These are very important investments that we need from the government of Quebec. But at the city level, we can do something, and it's why I propose the express bus network, because we can plan the reserved lane for buses to be sure that the people who are moving, thousands of people every day are moving by bus and they are stuck in the traffic. So we have to offer them a very efficient network of buses, and because the city is responsible for that, we can do it alone without waiting the investment of the government of Quebec.
Where do you put that? Before I get to you, Craig, where do you put that? Do you put that where it is on the shoulder? Do you put it in the middle of the road? Because if you put it where it is on the shoulder, sometimes the bus still gets stuck in traffic in a reserved bus lane.
Yeah, not always, because if there's a reserved lanes all the day, people are used to, because now it's just during the rush hours, is it the time, it's not the time. When we have reserved lane, it works. Look at the Henri Bourassa Boulevard project. It will work very well because there's a designated line for buses. It's efficient, and I think about light reserved lane, and after that we open the path through in the future a network of tramways. This is our long-term vision.
Craig?
Reserved bus lanes are great, but if the frequency is not there, it's problematic. There's some, we're looking at even the SRB and P9 there, the amazing new bus lane we put in. The commercial speed has gone down because there's not enough buses, so they get stuck when they're taking so many people on the buses. So we're going to need to have the frequency as well. That's something we're going to have to fight for. I really believe that the Montreal City Council and Montreal, we have to unite. We have to make a team Montreal to get better financing for our bus system, to do metro extensions, to do a tramway system. These are things that are necessary to be a modern, inclusive, and free city. These are things we need, but we're going to always, squabble amongst ourselves. We're not going to get there. So I think we have to work together, the three parties, as a coalition of saying, yes, we need to face Quebec on, show the courage and the fight with Quebec to say, this is important for our economic development, our cultural development, and we are the economic motor of Quebec.
All right. I should point out, at the dissolution of council, there were two other parties at council, so they might want us to mention them.
They're involved
Anjou and
too.
LaSalle, hello. Let's talk about bike paths now, because that's been a hot button issue during this campaign and over the last couple of years. Craig, I'll start with you. You're promising to extend the cycling network east. How do you know the East End needs the same kind of infrastructure as central areas of the city?
Oh, everywhere. We want to expand it everywhere. The neighborhoods where there's no safe bike lanes, we need to...
But how do you know they need that kind of infrastructure? How do you know they need the infrastructure that, say, for example, the Sud-West has?
Well, there's a lot of neighborhoods that have nothing, and we're seeing cycling go up. There are a lot of community organizations that report to us. There are Vélo Québec. There's lots of groups that know. And Montreal, at the city level, the traffic sector, we know that there are more cyclists coming on lots of roads. There are measurements that we can take as well. And there are a lot of places where there's just no secure bike paths. And that's a worrisome, because we're seeing cycling is going up. Right? So what I'm saying is Montreal has to meet the demand. Every time there's an unfortunate, tragedy where someone's hit and they're killed or they're seriously injured, the coroner of Quebec does a report. And every single one of those reports said, if there were safe bike lanes, then this death would not happen. So we need to move forward. And there are places, I'm looking at, between Notre-Dame-de-Grâce and Saint-Laurent, there's no good bike path to get between north-south west of the Décarie. We need to work on places all around the city. So no matter where you are, you feel safe if you're riding on your bike. And you know what, if you're a driver too, having separated lanes, it's a lot clearer for you too. So I think it just improves the fluidity of everybody and provides public safety everywhere.
Luc, on that point, lost parking spaces, lost traffic lanes, some of the polarization about bike paths have been about the protected or the separate ones. Do you stand by them?
Stand by the bike?
Yeah, do you stand by your decision to put in those separated bike lanes in the different places on the island of Montreal?
Of course. We are proud to have developed this network of safe bike lanes because we can see it on the Rêve on Saint-Denis. There's more than 1 million persons a year that are using the bike path. We see children, parents, elderly people. We see all the people on the bike paths because they feel safe. And these persons will not ride in the traffic because they don't feel safe. So there's a question of safety. We have to do it. I'm very proud of the network that we developed. And the parents still ask in the boroughs. You ask how you say that if there's a demand. The boroughs knows that because the parents come to the elected officials and ask for safe streets for their children when they want to go to school by walk or by bike.
Mm-hmm. Soraya, you promised an audit on bike paths. Mm-hmm. Once that audit is complete, what happens to the bike paths that are found to be unsafe?
Well, my understanding was because we had a debate last night, and Craig said actually that the City of Montreal already has a report on bike paths that are questionable and that we should be looking into. So my idea is that because what I find it very difficult in the past few years is that we have an administration, Projet Montréal, and Valérie Plante and Luc Rabouin, that are standing behind this, which everybody agrees that a city like Montreal needs to have a mobility for all people that use our streets and our sidewalks. But we can't do that with just the people that agree with you. You have to understand that you also have to listen to the people that are concerned. Your merchants, your senior that can't get their medication delivered, adapted transportation. In Hochelag, I have a foundation of people that are non-voyant. They are scared to cross the street because we didn't think that we need to address the issue of crossing the street. So we need to listen to all Montrealers if we want to have a city that we're constructing with all Montrealers, not only for some, but for all. And that's what I think having an état des lieux and making sure that making the connections and looking at the ones that are, not secure or just questionable in terms of are the right place. Shouldn't be on the other side. Maybe we can have a space where merchants can have the delivery of their merchandise. That's where I think we need to look into the city and say, how do we make sure that it works for all Montrealers?
Okay, let's move from active transport to public transit. And because of transit strikes, limited service on the island of Montreal, security, as well as rising fees, people don't necessarily want to take public transit. So how do we encourage people to hop on the bus, hop on the metro? What is the key to getting people interested in public transit? This is going to be an exchange again of about 5 minutes. Soraya, I'm going to give you the opportunity now to start.
Well, I think there's an issue on security. I mean, as you know, a lot of people are feeling maybe unsafe now in the subway. We've seen the result of surveys of people, even late at night, very early in the morning, not wanting to take the metro, that they don't feel safe. So we have to make sure that we are addressing the safety where people can feel safe in our public transportation. And of course, there's an access to it. Like if you're working, the hours are very different. We have to make sure that we're addressing the issue of making sure that the frequency of our metro and our subway and our buses is there to respond to the needs of everybody all day. And I think it's making sure that we are addressing the issue of the money of this STM and the governance of the spending of the STM.
Are you of the same mind, Craig?
I mean, look, the reason why we need better public transit is because we need people to feel really free to choose public transit. In a lot of places in the city, they're feeling that there's, if you look at LaSalle in the morning, when you're trying to look at in Western LaSalle, the lineups along the bus stations are really long. People want to use public transit. But if they know if they miss one bus, the next one coming in 30 minutes. And if you have to make a few stops or if you need to carry some stuff, they're not feeling as interested in taking public transit. And so one of the things we want to do is to increase affordability, is to bring in a real social tariff. That means that you can pay the price of a student fee for anybody making under $45,000. That's one thing, affordability, something we're going to do. But also you need to increase the frequency of buses, and we need to talk about metro extensions. Imagine we're actually extending the Metro Line Blue, the Blue Line right now. It's a really amazing opportunity. We've built up an office of expertise that people are remembering how to build metro because we haven't done it so long in Montreal. And after this project's over, there's no more project. All those experts that have just learned again how to build metro, they're going to go off into the private sector. We got to make sure that the next extension is being planned immediately, so we can move those experts right into the next plan. We've got a tunnel boring machine that's come from Europe that we're going to be using for the Blue Line, and then it's going to leave Montreal after. That's crazy. This tunnel boring machine should be working on every single metro extension. So everywhere in the city, people feel free to take public transit because it's the best option.
You want people to get on the bus, though, right, Luc? You're encouraging more buses.
I encourage more buses because I want to create bus lanes, because this is something that the city of Montreal can do without waiting for the other level of government. But we know that the metro is the most efficient way to move a large number of people. There's nothing like the metro. This is the most important thing, but it costs a lot, and now we have the chance to
we need provincial funding for buses, though, because that's the thing. We're going to have to fight for bus money. We're going to have to fight for operations money.
But we can do it ourselves also for the bus money. We can increase the frequency ourselves. We don't need to wait about the government of Quebec. We need the investment of government of Quebec to develop the tramways, to develop new metro stations, and to take care of our metro
bus
network.
Garages, more buses, that needs provincial money. That's why I say we have to work together.
And the RTM is already doing what Luc Rabouin is proposing. The RTM is already thinking about that.
But we can do ourselves, plan the reserve
we're living
lanes.
in an island where there's other cities, so we have to have a regional perspective. Yes, we can do it ourselves, but we have to do it not alone. So what he's proposing is that all the other cities around Montreal can do their thing and we're going to do our thing.
Absolutely.
Well, the RTM, that's what they're doing. They're proposing exactly what he's doing, but in a regional perspective, and that's how we're going to get more money from Quebec to do it. If you do it alone,
we got to fight for the money. We got to fight for the money.
Exactly. You got to fight for the money.
But there's something that we can do ourselves. That doesn't mean that we don't work out together with the regional.
I know you fight with Quebec. That we know you do.
All right, I'm going to put an end to this because we are coming up on the end of the hour, and I just want to kind of fast forward to the end of your first term, whoever wins on November 2nd. Fast forward to the end of your first term. What is a tangible thing that Montrealers will remember you for, and why? Soraya, I'll start with you.
Well, I tackled housing. I stopped exodus of families of Montreal. I've tackled safety. People will feel more safe. I've tackled the cleanness. Sorry, I don't want to see any more rats in the city. And I want to make sure that we are addressing the issue of encampments and that people find a home. And honestly, that we get more for our money, because under this administration and Projet Montréal, our taxes went 38%. We didn't get more services on our 38%.
Craig, how about you?
Montreal will be on the road to be the most affordable city in North America with a robust, public housing, community housing agenda. Montreal will have regained control of its construction by bringing more work in-house through our Infra Montreal agency, and we'll have done a democratic reform initiative so that we have more voices around the table, proportional representation in the boroughs, and we can choose our next mayor by a ranked ballot.
Luc?
Yes, I want to make Montreal the most affordable city in North America, so we agree on that, and the people will be able to see the difference, to see the path we are going through, and by making it mandatory and not just optional. We tried it in the past, and I want the greener neighborhood. This is important. I jump into politics to face climate change, and I want to work on that. We need to adapt at our neighborhoods that people are living the effect of climate change. We will do more green spaces, more sponge spaces to prevent from flooding for the people. And we will be more efficient, and we will be on track to have a vibrant economy and a vibrant culture in Montreal. We are recognized at the international level for the ecological transition. I want that Montreal be recognized for the affordable city.
Right. First things first, though, people have to vote. And
Yes.
I've spoken to all three of you about this. Voter turnout in the last election was low, and I spoke to people from L'Île Bizarre, Saint-Geneviève to St. Leonard who actually told me, I'm not voting. I'm not going to vote on November 2nd or at any advance poll. What do you say, all three of you? I know we're coming up on the end here, but if you could quickly, Luc, what can you tell people to encourage them to cast a ballot?
It's very important because it's the future of our city that we are deciding when there are elections. So we have different proposals here, a different vision. I think it's very clear. And they should vote. I hope they will vote because they decide for the future. We want to go forward and we don't want to go back.
Craig, quickly.
We've got to fight polarization at City Hall. The two-party dominance has to end. We need more parties in City Hall. So I'm encouraging people to go vote for Transition Montreal so we can bring new voices to the table. That's the way to move forward.
Soraya?
People want to change. People want to make sure that we're trying something else because in the past 8 years, we have done, and Projet Montréal has done that, but it hasn't given the result that they were expecting. So I think that if they want to have that change, they have to go and vote.
That flew by, didn't it? We could do a
I
whole
know.
other
There
hour
were so many,
or
we could have
two.
gone on and on and on, but yeah, it's an hour goes quickly.
It certainly does. I want to thank you all
Thank you.
for coming in. Soraya Martinez Ferrada of Ensemble Montréal, Luc Rabouin of Projet Montréal, and Craig Sauvé of Transition Montréal. I want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. We're broadcasting on many platforms of CBC. I want to remind people, too, that you can get more of our coverage on our website. All your platforms are there. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to vote.